Welcome back to another Let's Talk Clutter podcast episode. The purpose of this podcast is to break down the stigmas around clutter through lighthearted conversation and sharing of personal stories. And I am so excited to have Anca with us today. Coach Anca is a fan favorite around here. Anca, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I am excited to be here.
So, Anca, how did you come to be a coach in our communities, and what is your personal history with clutter?
The coaching part still surprises me, but I came to be a coach after we're actually going on our 3-year anniversary together, Jess. So
Oh, that's so exciting. We should celebrate.
we should celebrate. But I always felt like I struggled with clutter and didn't know how to organize well. And the truth was, I was a really good organizer. Like I could organize stuff uh, Tetris style. So it wasn't obvious to a lot of people that I struggled with clutter because of that skill that I somehow got from my mom. But I had a lot of stuff and I was drowning in toys and clothes and everything. I decor everything. And then I saw one of your ads pop up on Facebook that I'd never seen before, and I clicked on it, and that's how we started. But that was not the beginning because I'd read all the books, I'd read KonMari, and I was surprised I survived that because I did what she said, which is take out all your clothes and put them all in one pile on the bed so you can see how many you have. And the only thing I remember is I got them in by the end of the day back in my closet so I could go to sleep and not like cry next to that pile of clothing. Um, but none of the other books and programs that I had tried worked for me. They were they were beneficial with certain areas of clutter, but overall they didn't help me tackle my clutter and not organize my clutter, which is what I had done and deceived myself into believing that I was organized because of that.
So that's so interesting because I think actually a lot of people deceive themselves into thinking they're organized, and then they feel like they can't keep it up because you're just actually storing a lot of stuff in a no organized fashion. So then they
And
feel
I
like
couldn't keep it up.
failures.
Right.
Right, because it's impossible.
Because you're storing so much stuff. Because once I started to take the things out of storage, it was crazy to see the sheer amount of things that I had um, neatly organized into millions. It felt like millions of boxes. And like, I think like one of the top things that I decluttered was bins, boxes, organizers of all kinds.
How do you feel about bins and boxes now? Because I know that you also have an interior design slant. And actually, before we started working together, you had a business doing like parties. Like,
Parties, yeah,
yeah.
and flowers. And so yeah, I think boxes are great. I think they should be beautiful if you have them. Like even for me, inside my cabinets, I want pretty boxes and bins. I just don't want extra boxes and bins anymore. And so now when I see them, I now have a place where I keep the extras temporarily, and I only keep the best of now. Like it has to be worth its keep around here to stay in my house, but I don't, it's not the same anymore. Like I will not keep extra, I will not buy extra boxes. I will not keep extra boxes that like I can't, that I don't think are practical. So it's totally different now.
So have you felt this? I hear a lot like, this is a great box or bin. I should keep it. Like, I'm holding onto it because this is a great box or bin. But the reality that I have found is that there are actually very few boxes or bins that are all that great. Like the hard plastic ones crack, the soft fabric ones collapse, like the cardboard ones
Right.
fall in. Like it's actually kind of hard to find a true good box or bin.
Yeah, I've gotten really picky. I've said this before. I cannot stand a tapered box. Like those are garbage to me. I can't stand anything that isn't sturdy. So yeah, all of mine. I I don't love every single thing I have because a lot of them I pick based on the look. And so you're kind of compromising there. But yes, they have to be sturdy, they have to look good, and they have to function well. Otherwise, it's not a good box. It may appear to be a good box, but if it doesn't serve you, it it's pointless to keep it.
And Anka, can you explain? I know why I hate tapered boxes and bins, but can you explain to the audience why you hate tapered boxes and
Oh,
bins?
because they vomit your stuff out at the top because they're poorly structured. So the bottom, they're great for manufacturers and resellers because they can stack them up to eternity, but they don't function well because of that. So I anger purge them. So we can talk about that too later. That was one of the first things I realized. Like I was like, why is my stuff not sitting neatly after I kind of figured out what size box I need and what I want in this space? And then I realized it was because nothing could sit properly. It couldn't stand up straight because of the
Right.
tapering.
Right, because the you want things to be vertical and they just fall over and then everything just flops.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah. So I hate them with a
No
passion.
flopping. We had no flopping in organization here.
No, and that is, I know you don't like the Container Store, but they are the only ones I found that will make shoe boxes that aren't tapered, that go straight down. IKEA loves to taper everything, so I have a little bit of a love-hate with them.
Well, and that's probably because, I mean, like you said, that it's easier to ship, it's easier to stack. It
Yeah,
makes sense from a retail perspective, but not from a home storage perspective.
right.
And I don't really hate the Container Store. I hate the concept of the Container Store.
Right. I'm just saying, like, they
Yeah.
are probably the only ones that will make a shoe box that isn't tapered. I'm like, why is this so
Yeah.
difficult? But it's also a $5 shoe box, not a,
Well, and a lot of shoe boxes, they're like secretly tapered. Like they look
yeah,
square, right? But then they have like a rounded bottom, which is a taper, really.
yeah.
Oh, Anka, I love you because we can talk about like the nuances of shoe boxes and what is a taper and what is a secret taper. So good. All right. So one of your strategies when you started working with me was anger purging. And this is definitely a term that I believe you coined. I never heard anyone else say it before. Um, Tell us about anger purging. How does that work? Why
I
does that
still
work?
feel I still feel like there needs to be a disclaimer because I don't feel it's exactly the right way to call it that, but it's part of it. And anger purging is when you feel like you're up to your eyeballs in clutter and nothing is moving out and you've had it. So you take a black trash bag, and I highly recommend a black or not see-through object that you're going to use so you can get rid of the stuff that you have looked at so often and clutter shuffled and not made any decisions on, and you're ready to get it out. Sometimes it's Legos on the floor. Sometimes it is just stuff that's been sitting and taking up space, but not serving you. And it's usually quick, very cathartic, and my house looks better after it. And not once has anyone noticed anything I've anger purged because it is actual clutter. It is like one step up from garbage, essentially.
So that's another good definition of clutter, one step up from garbage. Something that people are not attached to, has no purpose in your house, but isn't quite garbage, but could be garbage.
Right. Nobody's making a decision on it. It's that sort of thing. And nobody misses it because it's not significant. It is clutter.
I think at the end of the day, what I learned through my decluttering journey is if it's a maybe, it's actually a no. Like very rarely do my maybes become yeses.
Right. Anything I'm thinking about, that's kind of like my signal. I should probably just let it go because I'm going to come back to it later and I don't want to come back to it later anymore.
Right. Because that's your time, your energy. That's the most important thing.
Right. For me, it's the mental part of it. I do not want to think about it twice or more. And that's what I was doing in the beginning. I wasn't so quick about my decisions and I was shuffling. And had I just gone with, hey, if I'm considering this item, I should let it go now concept, I would have been I think I would have been further faster, but I still got to coaching. I still got through doing at least a couple of rounds through my house, maybe more, and I'm still going at it.
So Anka, you also are a homeschooling mama. And I find that we have a lot of homeschoolers, parents in our groups, and it's difficult when you have to have curriculum at your house and you have your kids at your house a lot of the time. So how do you handle homeschooling and the clutter or the stuff that comes with homeschooling?
So, what I've learned, and one of the things I had to work through was this idea that we think as homeschool moms, we need to reproduce a classroom and we need to reproduce a classroom for different grades. But that's not true. A lot of the things that I do use now are a lot more simplified, and we're using more of the books and the materials that I have because I think it was after not my first year, but the second year, I finally decided I moved into this space instead of having my curriculum and materials in three different areas in the house, which was driving me insane because I was organizing them. I was Tetrising, so I put them where they would fit instead of having them all together in one space. And so I would lose track of what we had. I still had an overabundance of materials that I needed to let go of. But putting them in here defined the amount I could keep, and it also made it visible. And that actually made us a lot more productive, helped us to figure out what we needed to improve, what we needed to let go of further. And now at the end of every year, I've got my table over here full of things that I need to look through and decide, are they keep, are they go, am I passing them on, am I throwing them out, because every homeschool mom has a ton of stuff, like you said. Um, and recognizing that it's not the stuff and not getting caught up in this potential of, but this book has value because there's knowledge in it. And that was really hard for me to work through, even with my other books. But letting go of like the potential of knowledge was huge for me because it doesn't actually hold any potential if you're not using it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, can you say that again because that's a really powerful concept.
So though our books, our whatever, our papers, right, wherever we have things that we think store knowledge, they don't they don't have that if you're not using it. So it is potentially there, but it's not serving you if you're not actually using the material. So it was better for me, just like with everything else I decluttered. The one thing I learned about myself through this process was I actually need fewer options in order to use them and not give myself all the options. All the options means I'm using far less stuff because it's overwhelming me and causing decision fatigue.
Yes, that is there's a name for that concept. The paradox of choice.
Oh
It's
yeah.
actually it's a book. So it's a book and
Oh
it's kind
okay.
of like the paradox of choice. When we have more choice, it is stifling. We have less ability to make a choice the more choices that we have, which is why like with children, if you lay out their clothing in the morning and give them two options, it's much easier for them to decide what to wear than if you give them 10 options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And if I have fewer books on the shelf, they have to pick from those, and they're not also winding up all over the house if there's fewer.
I find in general in this information age, we do tend to collect and hoard information in so many different ways. And it's very invisible clutter. Well, sometimes it's visible, but it can be also very invisible. But we feel like if we don't have all the information, we can't make a good decision. And then we don't make a decision because we're waiting for the right amount of information, which just confuses us. It's this
Yeah.
whole crazy cycle.
Right. And how hard is it to get more books and find out more, get more knowledge? Like everyone has so much curriculum, at least in the homeschool world. You can get everything that you want. But do you want it? I discovered I don't. I want my kids to learn the tools, and I don't. One of the reasons I wanted to homeschool is because I didn't want busy work, and I didn't want, I wanted them to be able to follow their interests and energy more and to be more self directed instead of here's all of the information, consume it equally, and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Be guided by your purpose. Why did you start doing this to begin with?
Yep. So we go to the library, we pick up books, and I'll pick up a few that I think are interesting and I'll leave them out. And it's so much better again when I have like 3 books that I leave out for them to look through. Sometimes I'll read. My daughter still likes when I read to her while she's working. That was one of the things we discovered. She likes audiobooks or me reading to her. So she consumes information that way as well. But I don't have to buy all the books that she's interested in, which is it's a really big like thing with homeschool moms. We really feel like if we're not buying all the things, we're not, at least the ones I've talked to, we feel like we need to have all the things in order to homeschool well. But that's not true.
No, it's definitely a false narrative. And I'm so happy that you are this other voice out there that can talk about a different way of doing things.
Right. And this actually kept me from homeschooling sooner because I felt so unequipped for it. And I didn't think I could do it because my house didn't look like a classroom. And then I tried to turn it into one. And when I did, it didn't function well for me. So,
Right. Classrooms are a product of an institution, but not
yeah,
the only way to learn.
right. And having fewer basic supplies is just so much better than having all of the supplies because we live near Hobby Lobby and Michael's and, there's Amazon for
Wait,
all the
who doesn't
things.
live near Hobby Lobby and Michael's and
Right,
Amazon? I mean,
right. So I don't have to make my office look like a craft store anymore, which was, again, mind-blowing to me. How can you craft if it doesn't look like Michael's in your craft room or office?
I'm gonna pause for a second. Well, not really pause. I'm just gonna go off screen for a second so I can blow my nose because I have a sinus infection. But would you talk a little bit about how you run action calls and like I'm curious why you feel they're so effective because your action calls are super popular. They have a cult-like following. So I'm gonna go off camera for a second, and maybe you can dive into that.
Sure. So on my action calls, what we always do, I usually have a theme for people to follow along if you feel like you don't have something that you want to work on that day. A lot of the folks do have certain projects they need to tackle, but we always start the same. We start with our dishes, our laundry, and our hotspot. So we get that done during the call, and typically after doing those 3 areas, move on to whatever um, they're feeling that needs attention. I start this way to get the dishes, laundry, and hotspot tackled, and you can move on with your day and not worry about those things. But also to give you a starting point, because a lot of people, even as they're going through their journey, feel overwhelmed about what to do next or where to start. And that gives you some time to get started physically, but also mentally to think through what is the thing that is bugging you most, which is typically where I tell people to work on after their hotspot. And then the other thing that I always talk about and I ask people about is what self care they will do. Because one of the other major things I discovered during this process is I didn't have good self care routines, and I needed to beef those up in order to be able to declutter effectively. So, we talk a lot about that. A lot of people, when they first come on my calls and hear this concept of self care, some of them say, well, I don't know what I want to do. And I talk about doing self care on multi levels. Like, do something little that night. If I'm having an evening call, I'll say, do something before bed, beef up your nighttime routine. It can be as simple as put on some moisturizer, whatever product that you've bought in the past. Go ahead and use it. Like,
Use what
try
you
it out.
bought.
Right. See if you still like it. See if it's worth keeping. And, we get a 2 for 1 there where we're doing self care and trying out the things that we've bought. Or, give yourself a foot massage or a hand massage or get in bed 10 minutes, 15 minutes early, read your books, do something for you. And then I talk about bigger self care. Like if you have extra time you have an open weekend, maybe do this crazy thing called try doing nothing for the first time in your life. It is mind-blowing and amazing. Um, I had to fight through that a lot in the beginning because I hadn't been used to the concept of doing nothing and literally nothing, even mentally nothing. So stopping the mental chatter, learning to do meditation instead, being in the moment of just relaxing and resting and giving myself that opportunity.
It's like you give yourself a whole body break.
Yeah, but that was really difficult for me in the beginning because I wasn't used to it. So doing nothing if you can't figure out what to do, and then following your interests so that you are filling your cup emotionally, physically, spiritually, and not feeling like this is sucking the life out of you.
Yep. I saw this quote on one of those like viral reels recently, and it talks about how the problem is not that we don't have enough time. The problem is that we're spending our time doing things that don't fill our soul. And I really, really resonated with that.
I absolutely agree. So I'm a big proponent of do all the things. If you don't know, go try something new. Go like follow your interests and be childlike in it. And that is, it can be something you like to do as a child. And it completely brings a new level of awareness and self care into the picture, which then makes it so much easier to handle these hard situations that decluttering brings our way.
One of my favorite things to do for self-care is to like lie on the floor where there's a big patch of sunshine. Like you feel like the warmth of the sun and just lie there and enjoy the warm sun. Now, maybe in Florida that's not as exciting.
Yeah, to me, I'd like to lie where there's AC. Actually, is that's the thing that I chase. But I get it.
That's really funny. I need all the warmth I can get, and you're looking for all of the nice, cool air coming your
Yeah,
way.
pretty
So
much.
there's a lot of power also in hosting your calls with other people working with you. And there's this term for that. It's called body doubling, which
Yeah,
I mean, we used to call it like study group.
right. But I study group work really well for me as well.
Yeah.
So this is it. It helps to counter that feeling of being alone, that feeling of I don't want to do it. But knowing that as a group, we're collectively working together and we collectively probably don't want to do it. And we still get started and notice that we feel better in the end, despite how we felt in the beginning, because we didn't let that voice determine our outcome.
So powerful. It's interesting too that you structure your calls this particular way. And this is also basically the structure of the Clutter Boss Challenge.
Right.
Dishes and laundry are so key. When you have like your dishes and laundry in an actual routine and you don't have to think about it and it's not piling up, it really does make everything so much easier.
Right. Because if you're trying to declutter, but there's this mess of dishes and laundry around you and hotspots everywhere, it's hard to determine what's clutter because it all looks so messy. And so that was one of the things I realized for myself. I had to get those two tackled. And then hotspots move for me. Like it can be my entryway, it can be my dresser, my vanity in the bathroom, or my nightstand. And so or my desk. My desk is always a hotspot. So I know I need to go after these things before I can declutter. And
So there's a question, what is a hot spot?
oh, a hotspot is the piles of things that we make that we leave for later that we think are important things, but not important enough to handle in the moment. And so they
They're
build
basically
up.
drop zones. They're drop zones all
Yeah,
over your house.
right. But mine turn into, they go into infernos if I let them build up and don't handle them. So I call them hotspots. I
Yeah,
think
hot spots.
that might have been a Fly Lady term, the hotspot,
Yes,
but it's the same
maybe.
concept.
Right. Hotspots, drop zones. It's just clutter piling up. And it truly can happen anywhere. I mean, and it, like you said, they kind of rotate. I think in the beginning, everywhere is a hotspot. But then as you go through
Right,
this process, you have recurring hotspots. And that's
right.
what you start to tackle.
Yeah, the areas that I'm constantly using, they always need attention, and that's where my piles are.
Kitchen counter, right? Like everyone's kitchen
Yeah,
counter is a hotspot. It's
yeah.
just it. So, how do you like what does your daily schedule look like for dishes and laundry? How do you like tackle that during the week?
So for dishes and laundry, I know for myself, I need to break it down and do chunks at a time. I typically throw in a load of laundry at night to start in the morning, and I do that after I unload my dishwasher in the morning because I also run the dishwasher at night. So I have routines set in place. I unload in the morning and then we just reload as we go through the day. Because we're home, there's more dishes. So that was one of the things I had to reconfigure with homeschooling is we make messes at home, so we have to stop and pick them up a lot more often, or they will build up and feel too overwhelming at the end of the day, and then I won't want to cook dinner either. So breaking it down so that I have them, so I don't have piles of dishes uh, building up and dealing with the laundry throughout the day. I'm now with the challenge putting it away, which I that was like the last thing for me. Like I was really good at doing my laundry, but folding and putting away is where it would just, I mean, it died in my laundry baskets. So that's also helped quite a bit. And I didn't think that that would have make such an improvement, but it is really interesting to be able to um, see what's being used. And I always say this, look inside your drawers or look inside your cabinets when you've used up all your dishes, the stuff that's left behind, that's the stuff that you should probably look through to declutter because you're picking out your favorites. And it's the same with the
Absolutely.
clothing. Um,
Well, they say
but
that I guess the statistic is that we wear 20% of our clothing 80% of the time. I think it's 90% of we wear 10% of our clothing 90% of the time. I think we wear a really small amount of clothing over and over and over again, the average person. I don't know. What do you think?
I I used to, but now that I've decluttered and I have fewer
Right.
clothes,
Yes.
I
This
don't think
is so
that's
true
accurate
because now
anymore.
I wear most of my clothing all
Right,
of the time.
right. Now I have to wash it, right? Because there's fewer
Yes.
options in there. I'm not, I don't have 3
Actually,
weeks worth of clothes.
that does help you stay on top of laundry is decluttering clothing.
Right. Yeah, it makes a difference when you know you're going to run out of something.
And it's so true. That's another unique challenge of a homeschooling family or any family that's in their house a lot, working from home, whatever. You're in the kitchen way more. You're using your kitchen just 3 more times a day than you would if you're just doing a quick, well, just basically all day long. So you
Yeah.
have to figure out staying on top of it. Anka, how do your kids participate with chores? Like, what does that look like for you?
So they have like chores they have to do, and then they have chores that they get to earn money for. Those are the things, and it's usually just things that are piling up that I need help with. I will just let them know, hey, whoever wants to make $1 and vacuum the kitchen, you've got it, or do the dishes, or whatever it is. Bathrooms, they regularly have to do the bathrooms and the floor anyway, but there are times when it gets worse than usual. So um, it's basically we've got steady things they have to do and the extras to keep it clean. And then there are times when I just look around and say, "Hey, everybody needs to clean up for 20 minutes. This is like not up for discussion. It is not up for payment. It is let's get it done."
We're pitching in and we're all doing this together.
Right. We all live here and I can't stand the sight of it. So,
Yeah, that's pretty much we do chores a very similar way. There's stuff that has to get done every day. It's not negotiable. It's not up for payment. It just is what you do as part of a member of this family. And then there's other things, typically things that I need the most help with that I will pay extra for. So,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
the cooking that I learned that from you. Like if I will pay them to cook,
Yep.
and it can be even muffins or whatever. Like Elise has really taken off with that. She loves cooking, and so she'll ask me the day before, like, I'm planning to make muffins. Does that work? I'm like, absolutely. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's awesome. And you're teaching your kids life skills that way too.
right. That was the other goal with homeschooling was I wanted more of that, not busy work.
Yep. Because that's what you need as an adult are more life skills.
Right, and knowing we also need to know how to cut out the busy work actually. So I think it's counterproductive for adulthood. We need to know when to say no and what to cut out.
Yeah, absolutely. So true. Boundaries everywhere.
Right. Which I also got better with from decluttering because we have physical boundaries with decluttering that we are oftentimes ignoring when we have a lot of clutter.
Yeah, live within your space. That's your physical boundary.
Right.
I really love that terminology for it. I usually call it a parameter, but I love that you call it a boundary. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Anca, you're a natural coach here. So we're at our 30 minutes, which is usually where I start to wind down the podcast. Is there anything that you want to share with the audience? Any tricks that you have if you're stuck or just getting started?
Um, I will say it is still like you often say how it gets easier, and I often say I feel like it doesn't entirely get easier for me, and that's okay, right? Like we don't have to like hone in on those feelings of this is so hard, I'm just going to give up, right? Like statistically and, historically, that just hasn't served us when we give up on something that we're having an issue with. So learning to work through those feelings and just getting started was life-changing for me. Like, I don't have to feel like decluttering in order to do it. Yes, when I'm motivated, I do more and it's more visible, but that consistent action of, "I'm not gonna stop doing this until it feels right," like, the amount of clutter has reduced to the point where I can handle it, is completely a completely different way of handling it and has been so much more productive and effective for me than, "Oh, I can't do this, so that means I must not be good at this. I'm gonna go do something else that will make me feel better in the short term."
Yes, don't give up. There is a way forward, but you can't give up on it.
Right. And figuring out, what do I need? Do I need more support? Do I need to plug into the group? Do I need to sign up for the Challenger CBA? Shameless plug. Find what you need and, do it because we have the tools, but we don't empower ourselves so many times. Especially, I learned this for myself. I wasn't doing enough of that and learning how to handle these situations and tackle them.
Right. Invest in learning to empower yourself. And of course, we want you to join one of our programs always, but maybe for you, that looks like finding a life coach that is the right life coach for you, or getting the counseling that you need, or whatever it is. It's so easy for us to purchase physical items in the name of investing in ourselves, but true investment is much bigger and harder than that. And it's saying, I am going to improve my life and I am going to stop at nothing to do so.
Right, but the support was huge for me. That was really what changed it, and that's why I think that all those books that I read and all the other programs, if they don't offer the support, it's not the same,
It's not the
and
same.
that's what I needed. I needed to hear other people say, "I'm struggling with this also," and be able to move past that.
Absolutely. So, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not in one of our programs, come join us, get the support that you need, have coaching from Anca and from me and all of our other amazing coaches, and also just that encouragement from our incredible community. We have the best community out there. Truly, our community is second to none. And yeah, Anca, this has been an amazing conversation. I am going to have to come up with, we talked about so many different things. I'll have to come up with a good, um, kind of tagline for the whole the whole podcast. We'll figure it out. Thank you for being my guest. Thank you for all of your commitment to our programs and for your guidance and just awesomeness. You're amazing and I love you.
Thank you. I love you, Jess.
Have a great day. Bye everyone.
Bye.